Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking on something that I think affects almost everyone. It's that daily, exhausting fight we have with ourselves.
That battle against the voice of the inner critic.
Exactly. And the paralyzing fear of what everyone else thinks about us.
And we are treating this as the high-stakes issue.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, the experts we've synthesized for this deep dive, we're talking a Harvard Medical School psychiatrist, a Stanford neurosurgeon.
Top of their fields.
And they all established that the cost of this focus on the external is a life of, chronic misalignment.
Misalignment, that's a great word for it.
It is. That desperate need you have to be liked and understood by other people. It forces you to sacrifice your own self-liking. You end up in a life where you don't actually like yourself.
So our mission today is to really get into the mechanics of this self-sabotage and pull out actionable, expert-backed strategies.
Yeah.
We want to figure out why these behaviors are so deep, and then what we can do to shift from, external validation
Chasing everyone else's approval.
to internal alignment, to finally living for ourselves.
Okay, let's jump right in. The roots of self-criticism.
Yeah.
It feels like this is getting worse in the modern world, and it's not just, a character flaw. The sources point to two big factors that are amplifying it,
Right, and the first one is pretty intuitive. It's stress.
which we all have plenty of.
Exactly. And this connection is crucial. When you're chronically stressed, when your nervous system is stuck in that sympathetic activation.
The fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Yeah, that's the one. Your brain isn't spending its energy on self-compassion. It's just assessing threats. And who is the easiest target to blame for everything?
Yourself.
Yourself. So if you felt that self-judgment ratcheting up lately, you have to recognize that the kind of global stress load is absolutely pouring fuel on that fire.
That makes so much sense. But the second factor is where the neurology gets really, really fascinating. A Harvard psychiatrist, Dr. Ash, she points out that humans are not actually designed neurologically, emotionally, to see ourselves all the time. It sounds so counterintuitive at first, but when you think about the evolutionary wiring, it clicks. For, thousands of years, our quick judgment mechanism was all about external connection.
To survive in the tribes.
Precisely. We are wired to assess other people. Is their energy okay? Are they safe? Should I connect with them, or should I, move away?
But now we have Zoom, FaceTime, selfies, all these digital mirrors all day, every day.
And we are seeing ourselves at rates that are just unprecedented. We've given the brain so much self-data that its external judgment mechanism just kind of short circuits and turns inward.
So you're constantly comparing the real you, your skin today, your hair, whatever, to some idealized digital version of yourself.
And your brain is just not built to handle that kind of constant negative feedback loop. It's not.
Which is why Dr. Ash argues this is so important. Self-criticism isn't a personal failing. It's largely a function of our culture.
Yes, the culture of constant access, curated perfection, productivity, it forces us into this state of inadequacy. It's almost impossible in that environment to hold on to the idea that you are perfectly imperfectly beautiful as you are.
There's a great little example of this. The fun fact about your smartphone camera.
Oh, this is fascinating.
The default setting on the front-facing camera shows you a mirror image, right? But if you go into your settings and change it to the true reflection, how other people actually see you, it feels
Really wrong.
so wrong. Your brain has spent your whole life getting used to the mirror version, and that moment of confusion just proves it. Your brain can't easily compute what you actually look like to the rest of the world.
So if we accept that this is cultural, that it's neurological, then the path to fixing it becomes clearer. We have to look backward.
And realize this one crucial thing.
You were not born hating yourself. Somebody taught you to.
That's a powerful thought. The sources say this really takes hold between, 12 and 18.
Yeah, that's the primary window. It's when bonding with your peers becoming the most important thing in your development. So if you were criticized back then, mocked for how you looked, your height, your acne, anything, your brain processes that social rejection as if it were actual physical pain.
Wow.
The same neural pathways light up, and that level of pain convinces the brain that the criticism must be true. So the fastest way to feel safe is to just internalize it. You start beating everyone else to the punch.
If you're your own worst critic, no one else's criticism can hurt as much.
That's the theory you operate on.
Yeah.
But here's the good news, the best news, really. If it was taught, it can be unlearned. Those neural pathways can absolutely be changed.
Okay, so unlearning. If you've been practicing these negative thoughts for, say, 20 or 30 years. Where do you even begin? We found 3 core strategies, starting with one from Dr. Ash and Dr. Ethan Kross. It's called the meaningful mantra.
And this one is so clever because it uses that neurological distance we were just talking about.
Yeah.
When you catch yourself in that negative self-talk, you have to practice speaking to yourself using your own name.
Like a friend would.
Exactly like a friend would.
Can you give us an example of how that would actually sound inside your head?
Sure. So instead of that usual first-person loop, like, "Ugh, I always screw things up. I can't believe I said that." And then you stop it.
Yeah.
You interrupt, and you literally say, wait, your name, you don't always screw things up. You took a risk. It didn't land. What's next?
Ah, so using your name snaps you out of it.
It snaps you out of that self-absorption. It forces the brain to process the voice as if it's coming from outside you, which creates this critical psychological distance. It separates the I that's feeling the emotion from the you that's, analyzing what happened.
That's a small shift that feels like it could have a huge impact. Okay, next up is a more intensive strategy. This comes from Dr. Jim Doty, a neurosurgeon at Stanford.
And having a neurosurgeon's perspective is key here because he's talking about the literal rewiring of your brain.
So it's not just positive thinking.
No, it's about coding new neural pathways. To do it, you establish a new kind mantra, something simple, like I'm doing the best I can or I deserve encouragement.
And what's the process? How do you embed that?
It's a full sensory experience. You write it down, you read it, you say it out loud, and then this is the most important part. You do the visualization.
Okay.
You close your eyes, you get calm, and you visualize yourself literally acting like the person who believes that mantra, who feels it. The visualization is what forces the brain to practice this new behavior in a safe space. It builds and reinforces that new neural circuit.
I think the most important reminder here, and Dr. Doty really stresses this, is that this takes time. You can't undo decades of habit in a week.
Not at all. This is a real commitment, and that commitment leads right into the final and maybe the most critical step from Dr. Ash.
Because?
Stop waiting to live.
This is where so many of us get stuck. You have to identify all the things you're putting off until some idealized version of you is finally ready.
Like waiting to lose 20 pounds before you feel worthy of going to the gym.
Or waiting for your skin to clear up before you go on a date, or waiting until you feel expert enough to speak up at work.
Right, and the consequence of all that waiting, it's an active, daily self-betrayal. Every single day you delay, you are telling yourself, I am not good enough to have the life I deserve right now. You're just reinforcing the critic's power over you.
So how do you prove it wrong?
You take action before you feel ready. Go to the gym now. Start dating now. You have to assert with your actions that your present self is worthy of care right now.
But that idea of worthiness really connects to that monastery insight you mentioned. We get so obsessed with the physical, with what we look like on a screen.
We do. The sources talked about this experience people have in a monastery setting where there are, no mirrors, no reflective surfaces at all.
What?
Visitors report this profound realization that their capacity, their true self, their mind, their emotions, it's totally disconnected from the physical shell they were obsessed with just days before. Removing that daily visual check-in lets the focus shift completely inward, to purpose, to presence.
It's such a powerful image. We're so distracted by the face on the screen that we completely forget about the entire universe inside of us that's actually running the show. We have to reclaim that space.
Yeah.
That focus on the external is the perfect bridge to our next topic, people-pleasing, which for so long has been seen as, a sign of weakness, being a pushover.
But the experts we looked at suggest a really radical reframing of it.
Which?
People-pleasing is actually a form of manipulation.
Whoa. Okay, that's a strong word. Unpack that for us.
It is strong, but the definition is very specific. People-pleasing is a deliberate strategy that you use to manipulate others into liking you, or at the very least, not being mad at you.
And you do that by staying quiet when you should speak up, or doing things you don't want to do.
Or just not expressing your boundaries. It feels harsh to call it manipulation because we think of that as malicious. But the sources define it by the intent. Your intention isn't really to help the other person, it's to control their opinion of you.
So you're trying to control their perception through your own self-sacrifice.
Exactly. You're trading your authenticity for their approval. Once you see it that way, the power dynamic shifts. You realize you weren't just a passive victim. You were actively using a really costly strategy.
That is empowering, even if it's a little uncomfortable to admit. It also explains why it's such a hard habit to break. Being needed feels good. It gives you a sense of purpose.
It does. To break that cycle, one of the experts, Dr. Laksham, suggests starting with the most basic thing imaginable, the pause. You just have to create space by paying almost obsessive attention to your body's most basic needs.
So simple, it sounds like it couldn't possibly work.
But the application is profound. The pause just means checking in. Am I hungry? Do I need to go to the bathroom? Have I been staring at this screen for 3 hours straight?
And the connection is that these tiny physical boundaries are the training ground for the big ones.
That's it. If you are unwilling to take care of your own body, if you'll sit through a 20-minute meeting holding your bladder because you're worried what people will think if you step out,
Right.
then you will never be able to draw those bigger, higher stakes boundaries. You will never say no to that holiday commitment that drains you or refuse that weekend shift you don't want.
When you're always ignoring what your body needs because your mind is worried about what other people think, you create this huge internal split.
A total lack of alignment. And that's the ultimate failure of people-pleasing. It's a game you can't win.
How so?
Because if you succeed, if you make someone else not mad at you, you will go to bed mad at yourself. If you convince someone to like you by being fake, you go to bed disliking yourself. Winning on the outside means losing on the inside, every time, and that is just not sustainable.
Okay, let's pivot a bit here. Let's talk about big life and career changes. We tend to romanticize people who make these massive leaps, and we always attribute it to one thing: courage.
But the sources suggest that's a common misconception. More often than not, the thing that drives a major pivot isn't courage, it's sheer desperation.
That's a much more grounding way to look at it. It suggests that real change happens when the energy transforms.
Right, at some point, the negative energy it takes to just tolerate a life that makes you miserable. It has to get so heavy that it finally flips into the intrinsic drive you need to overcome your fear and your excuses.
So it's a choice.
It's the only choice, really. You either waste years complaining and distracting yourself, or you finally reach a point where the pain of staying is greater than the fear of leaving. That desperation becomes your fuel.
And that drive connects so perfectly to how we should be thinking about our negative emotions, specifically jealousy.
Jealousy. Yes. We see it as this ugly, petty thing we're supposed to hide.
But the core insight from the sources on this is just brilliant. It's this: you cannot be jealous of something you do not fundamentally want.
So jealousy is just a desire in disguise.
It's a roadmap. The sources say that jealousy is basically you blocking what's meant for you with your insecurity.
That's such a powerful reframe. Instead of seeing the person you're jealous of as your competition, you have to realize they aren't taking anything from you. They are giving you something.
Inspiration. Proof that it's possible.
Exactly. Jealousy isn't your enemy. It's your compass. It's pointing you directly toward what you need to work on.
So if jealousy gives you the destination, how do you actually start the journey? Especially for someone who wants to, say, turn a hobby into a business.
The most practical tip was to spend a year just being a student of that industry. That means you legally stalk the people who are already succeeding in the field you want to be in.
And you find their formula.
You find their formula. And you accept that, yeah, you might be copying their structure at first because there are no truly new ideas, just new combinations. But you will naturally make it your own because you are you. Your unique perspective is what makes it different.
The success isn't in having a magical idea, it's in the execution.
That's everything. The focus has to shift to just doing the reps, the boring, tedious, unglamorous work you do in the dark. That's what builds the foundation. You can't just wait for the perfect logo or some bolt of lightning. You just have to start doing the work.
Wow. That was an incredible deep dive. We've gone from the tiniest battles inside our own heads all the way to huge life pivots. Let's try and connect the biggest takeaways for you.
First, that self-criticism. It's not some moral failing on your part. It is largely cultural, it's amplified by our modern world, and it was taught to you, most likely between the ages of 12 and 18.
And if it was learned, it can be unlearned.
Absolutely. And remember, people-pleasing is a form of manipulation. It's a costly strategy you're using to get external validation.
And the very first boundaries you have to set are with yourself, your basic physical needs. If you won't pause to take care of your own body, you'll never set those bigger boundaries in your life.
Finally, that huge life pivot you're thinking about. It might not be waiting on courage. It might be waiting on desperation. When the pain of staying finally outweighs the fear of change.
Use jealousy as your guide. It's a messenger showing you exactly what your heart desires, right underneath all that insecurity.
The mindset shift required for all of this is to trust the process and to absolutely refuse to quit. You have to believe that every single experience you've had, the good, the bad, the infuriating, is just another brick in the path of your life. It's all preparing you for what's next.
And for your final provocative thought, we want you to cultivate faith in that future version of yourself. A monk teacher called this the highest self. And he said there are only 3 reasons a deep desire hasn't come true yet. Not right now, not like this, or I've got something better planned.
So cultivate that faith. Trust that where you are right in this moment is actively preparing you for something bigger and more amazing than you can even imagine right now. Your only job isn't to doubt, it's just to keep going, keep building, because all of this just makes the story of your eventual success that much better. Thank you for diving deep with us.